Hey guys, Underbricks here, and today I'm coming back at you with another rendition of this series, and today we're going to be chatting about something that I think has affected a lot of the people in this community, just in general recently, especially people who order a lot from the Minifig Co. And what we're going to be talking about today are shipping times, packing times, and transparency about the previous things. So transparency about shipping and packing. So I think that just generally, kind of theoretically, shipping and packing is a very integral part of a small business, right? You very much need to please your customers as a small business. As you're growing, you have a small customer base, maybe you fill a niche. You need to be able to fulfill orders quickly and get things out on time in a respectable time frame that is both defendable, efficient, and keeps your customers generally happy. I think that that's a general rule of thumb. Now, when we think about the Minifig Co. shipping speed, let's think back to last year. Let's think about 2020 during the pandemic and what was happening. During, kind of the ends of 2020, generally you would get your TMC order anywhere from about 7 to 14 days after you ordered it. So essentially, it would take about 1 to 2 weeks from your date of order to actually receive your product. Now, this was perfectly fine. I think that it was very reasonable for a small business like the Minifig Co. to promise, essentially a 1 to 2 week turnaround for having your product in hand. I think that that's relatively, that's relatively on the up and up. It gives TMC enough wiggle room so that they have some days where they have a little bit of time that they can doing other things and not necessarily pack stuff within that 2 week time frame and still get orders out on time. That generally seems like a good rule of thumb, in my opinion. However, as we've gotten into 2021, TMC has started to really release a lot more stuff. So if you think about it, they've essentially been releasing stuff almost every Friday for a lot of 2021. They have taken some Fridays off, which they've announced in order to catch up with shipping and packing, but they have generally stuck to a pretty regular 4 times a month release or 3 times a month release, which I think is great. It's very awesome, and I'm very happy that TMC is able to design so many products and release so many awesome products for everyone. They've released a lot of new stuff that they hadn't touched in the past, like modern figures, which you can see in front of you, and also a bunch of other stuff like some restocks, World War II stuff, pop culture. I mean, you name it, TMC has done some stuff this year that I think is really great, really in terms of the designing and releasing new product front. However, a few months ago, TMC shipping started to slow down. This was really not in part due to some incident in the postal service, I don't think. Now, TMC does say that the post office around them is slow to fulfill orders. However, I do want to note that towards, really the end of first quarter of this year, we saw the TMC shipping significantly slow down. And what I mean by that is that TMC actually ended up putting a new disclaimer on their website that said that orders would take about 7 to 10 days to actually fulfill. So what that means is that it was taking TMC 7 to 10 days after your initial order, 7 to 10 business days to actually pack it. So what that means is essentially 2 full weeks of business working time TMC needed to devote to getting your product out on time. Now, while this is all right, I do think that it is, it was emblematic of the fact that they were releasing so much new stuff in such a short amount of time that maybe they got overwhelmed. So I think that at first it was reasonable. It was a disclaimer. Inherently, disclaimers generally are temporary. They're not usually permanent things that are going to stay around. So I think a lot of people were on board with the fact that this would probably go away sometime in the future, but for now, there was delayed shipping. But what you might have noticed is that within a few months after they put the 7 to 10 day disclaimer, they upped that disclaimer to, I believe it was 10 to 14 days. So essentially now TMC was saying that it could take up to 3 weeks of business days to actually fulfill your order or pack it. So in my eyes, this is a little bit unacceptable, right? On that sort of timeline, essentially TMC is saying we will probably pack your order in about 3 weeks. So for example, these guys, I got probably about a month or a little bit over a month after I ordered them. And that kind of makes sense with their updated disclaimer timeline. So essentially what I imagine is that these guys were packed about 3 weeks after I ordered them, and then finally were shipped out shortly after that. So essentially it shows you that their fulfillment and packing speed is really slow. And I don't really think that this is all that great. I don't think that you should sacrifice the shipping and packing speed of your already existing products or already sold products just so that you can sell more products. I think that as a small business, likely what's happening to TMC is that they're just simply getting overwhelmed and inundated with a lot of orders because of how many releases they've done. And you've seen them hint at this or imply this in stories and other things like that when you've seen them talk about taking releases off, not because they didn't have new product design, but specifically because they needed to get sped up on shipping and packing. So I think that that really shows you how kind of behind they are, that they have to kind of deviate from their normal schedule. And so in my eyes, there's no reason that TMC should be taking upwards of 3 weeks to be simply picking and packing a product that is supposed to be already printed. The whole idea that product may be partially printed when it's sold is a whole separate conversation that I can make a video on if people want to hear about that. So go ahead and let me know. But it shouldn't be taking that long in my eyes. Now, some people might say, hey, they're a small business. It's unfair to say it shouldn't be taking that long. But I think that what we should do is kind of compare this to other small businesses in this arena. So let's think about, there's Eclipse Graphics, there's Brickmania, and there's K-Town Bricks. Let's just use those as 3 abstract examples. So first, I'll use my spear. Number 1, we have Eclipse Graphics. Generally, when I order from Eclipse Graphics, no matter how big or small the order, it's packed in about 3 to 4 days' time. Usually about 2 to 3 business days. If I order over a weekend, it's usually packed within the first 2 days of the week and shipped relatively fast. I usually have product anywhere from 5 to 7 days from the time that I ordered it. I think that this is a great turnaround time and definitely demonstrates that you can do it as a small business and you can ship fast. Now let's shift to Brickmania. I will premise this with the fact that I know that Brickmania is a much larger operation than really any company I'm talking about right now. Brickmania employs a lot of people who are simply dedicated to customer service and packing and shipping alone. So that is a little bit different from TMC, but I do think that their model is definitely something to look up to. Oftentimes I'll get notifications that my Brickmania order is fulfilled the day that I order it and it's shipped out the day after I order it. And sometimes I'll even get my order 2 to 3 days after I order it. So that really shows you what a dedicated set of people for shipping and packing can do for your shipping speeds. That's the type of shipping I think that we should expect from a company like Brickmania. And I'm not saying that TMC should be holding themselves to a 3-day turnaround in terms of shipping, but I do think that once you get above essentially that 2-week window, it starts to get a little bit preposterous to expect your customers to pay for a product and not call it a pre-order. When I pay for something and I'm getting it over 2 to 3 weeks after I ordered it, in my mind, I'm essentially pre-ordering it because that's a pretty significant amount of time to elapse, especially from a product that I'm ordering from the United States to another address in the United States. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on that. And then finally, our final comparison I guess we can do for the day is K-Town Bricks. Of course, if you guys know, K-Town Bricks is definitely the smallest of all the companies noted. It's essentially a one-man show with some part-time help, I believe. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that. But K-Town Bricks, even for their Knights tournament, which was a huge release of, I think it was over 20 or 25 minifigures, along with probably over a dozen new accessories and some misprint packs. All of that was fulfilled, packed, shipped, and delivered, I'd say within 10 days of the order date. And that's many, many more times in terms of the amount of volume when compared with, say, a normal TMC release. So I don't really think that there is a big excuse for these TMC shipping times to be taking so long. I would be a little bit more accepting, should I say, of these longer shipping times if TMC was a little bit more forthcoming about why, because I really don't think that you should be taking off time from your regular product releases to exclusively pack. I think that that's very obviously a time when you need to rethink your strategy and understand that you probably are biting off more than you can chew. If you have to take off entire weeks of producing your product to simply ship out product that has been ordered 2, 3, 4 weeks before then, I think that you need to reevaluate your timeline for releasing new stuff. I'm not saying that the products they release are bad. In fact, the products that TMC releases are amazing and has been releasing are phenomenal. It's simply the thing that we shouldn't be sacrificing shipping and packing speed for all of these new releases. Now, I know that that might not be an opinion that everybody holds. Some people might prefer that TMC continues to release every Friday and have very slow shipping speeds. Now, I'm going to respect that opinion, but again, I'm going to respectfully disagree with that opinion. Now, how I think TMC can remedy this is essentially trimming down the number of releases that they have every month, or consolidating releases. Instead of having 4 smaller releases, maybe they have 2 bigger releases every month, and they work on shipping in between those releases. Yes, it might not seem that they're releasing as much product, and it might not come with as much volume, but I think that the change and the decrease likely in shipping and packing times will definitely be worth that difference. I think that that would be a great way to remedy this, because at this point, I mean, I've waited for products for 4 weeks. I mean, I'm going on waiting 5 weeks for a product now, which to me, frankly, is kind of unacceptable. I mean, if you guys ordered something on a website that wasn't a pre-order and it took over 5 weeks to get delivered to you, do you think that you would really be satisfied with that shipping and packing speed? I don't think you would be. I'm not. So I think that that's fairly reasonable to say that that is an area for TMC to improve. And just one other, I guess, small tidbit to add to this is that TMC hasn't really been, I guess, forthcoming about the reasons for their shipping speed delays. They've essentially just said shipping speed is getting slower. And then when people have asked them about why it's getting slower, they constantly blame the USPS that is close to them. And while I can give them some of the benefit of the doubt that their USPS is slow at scanning in packages, is slow at fulfilling packages and stuff like that, I don't think that TMC can simply shift all of the blame from themselves to, say, the post office. I think that that's unfair on the post office, and that's essentially negating the blame that is somewhat on TMC for being slow on fulfilling. So anyways, that's kind of my little spiel about that. You guys can go ahead and let me know if you think that this is the post office's fault, if you guys think that this is TMC as a company's fault. I'd be curious to see what you guys think. I know that it has been a very static image in front of you here with these minifigures. I just thought that I'd put some of these new TMC releases that, as I said, look really nice. I mean, all 3 of these figures I'm very satisfied with. It's just that it took almost a month. Actually, I think it took about a month or a little bit over a month for me to get these 3 figures. So again, it really comes down to, are you okay with waiting super long and having a lot of constant releases, or are you okay with having fewer releases but having an expedited shipping and packing time? For me, I'll take the second option. I think that that's definitely better. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to add to this video. I know that this was definitely a longer episode in this series, so I'll cut it off now so it doesn't go any longer. But as always, guys, like, comment, subscribe, do all the normal stuff, and I'll catch you next time.